What happens when a disabled man in a small town parking lot becomes the target of ruthless bikers? You won't believe how his quiet phone call turns the tables in the most unexpected way. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the parking lot of Jerry's roadside diner in Lincoln, Nebraska. Was the kind of place where the locals gathered for coffee refills and truckers stopped to grab a bite before hitting the highway again, the steady hum of conversations and clinking dishes carried faintly through the open windows. But outside, the atmosphere was about to change. A man in his mid-40s, sitting in a sleek black wheelchair, rolled smoothly into the parking lot. His name was Leon. Dressed in a crisp button-down and faded jeans, he moved with quiet confidence, his gaze fixed ahead. Leon had come to grab a late lunch after running errands, unaware he was about to become the target of unwelcome attention. Across the lot, a group of 5 bikers leaned against their motorcycles, their laughter echoed rough and pointed as one of them elbowed the other, gesturing toward Leon. He was the kind of man who drew attention without asking for it. His dark skin and the wheelchair combined to make him an anomaly in their world. "Hey, Rollin' Thunder," one of them shouted, his voice cutting through the space like a bad joke. The others chuckled, their laughter carrying a mean edge. Leon didn't look their way. He simply continued toward the diner door, focused, calm, and completely unfazed. But the bikers weren't about to let it go. One of them pushed off his bike, a cocky smirk plastered on his face, and started walking toward Leon. The rest followed, their boots crunching against the gravel. Leon slowed his approach, instinctively aware of the group closing in behind him. He stopped near the diner's entrance, his hand hovering over the wheel rim. The leader of the bikers, a burly man with a leather vest and a patch that read "Outlaw Rebel," stepped closer. His grin was anything but friendly. "Hey, buddy," the man called out, his tone dripping with mockery. "Where's the fire, or you just out for a stroll?" The group behind him erupted in laughter. Leon turned his head slightly, meeting the man's gaze with an expression of calm resolve. "Just grabbing some lunch," he said evenly. His voice was steady, controlled, giving nothing away, but his calm only seemed to provoke them further. Another biker, younger and wiry with tattoos snaking up his arms, chimed in. "What's the matter, man? Ain't gonna run us over, are you?" He mimicked a wheeling motion with his hands, earning another round of cruel laughter. Leon didn't reply this time. Instead, he adjusted his position and prepared to wheel past them, clearly uninterested in playing their game. But as he moved, one of the bikers stepped directly in his path, blocking him. "Not so fast," the leader said, his grin fading into something colder. "We're just having a little fun, right? No need to be rude for a moment." The air felt heavy. A few patrons inside the diner glanced out the windows, but no one dared to intervene. Leon looked at the biker in front of him, then at the others, forming a loose semicircle around him. Still, he showed no fear. "I don't want any trouble," Leon said plainly, his voice carrying just enough authority to make the men pause. But it was clear they weren't backing down. Instead of responding, Leon reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. His movements were slow, deliberate, but they didn't go unnoticed. The leader's smug expression faltered. "For just a moment, who you calling, huh?" he barked. "Cops ain't gonna do much out here." But Leon's calm demeanor didn't waver. He dialed, put the phone to his ear, and said just a few words before hanging up. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances, but they didn't yet realize what was coming. Leon tucked the phone back into his pocket without a word. The leader of the bikers squinted at him, trying to read his expression. "What was that about, huh? You think you're scaring us?" he sneered, but there was an undercurrent of uncertainty in his voice. Leon didn't reply. He didn't need to. Instead, he wheeled his chair a few feet to the side, positioning himself against the wall of the diner, as though he had all the time in the world. His calm composure only fueled their frustration. "What you got back up coming?" another biker joked, his laugh carrying a nervous edge. The others joined in, but it was forced, hollow. Something about Leon's quiet confidence was starting to eat at them. Minutes passed. The bikers shifted, restless, their bravado beginning to crack. "Man, don't like this one," muttered under his breath, but the leader quickly silenced him with a glare. Then it happened, a low rumbling sound in the distance. It was faint at first, barely perceptible, but it grew louder with every passing second. The unmistakable roar of engines filled the air, cutting through the uneasy quiet of the parking lot. Heads turned toward the main road as a convoy of motorcycles came into view, their chrome glinting under the late afternoon sun. The sight was enough to make the bikers fall silent. The convoy was massive, dozens of riders clad in black leather and helmets, their jackets adorned with patches bearing symbols of unity and protection. They moved as one, their presence commanding attention. Leon watched them approach, his face unreadable. He hadn't said a word since his phone call, but now a faint smile played at the corner of his lips. The convoy pulled into the parking lot, with precision lining up their bikes like soldiers preparing for battle. The leader of the original bikers took a step back, his confidence crumbling as he muttered, "Who the hell are these guys?" But deep down, he already knew the answer. The power dynamic had shifted, and there was no going back. The convoy of riders dismounted their bikes almost in unison, boots hitting the gravel with a steady rhythm. They moved with purpose, no words, no shouting, just a collective presence that was impossible to ignore. Each one carried an air of quiet authority, or leather jackets emblazoned with a patch that read "Guardians of the Road." The leader of the convoy, a tall man with a silver beard and piercing eyes, stepped forward. He scanned the scene quickly, his gaze landing on Leon. "You good brother?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Leon nodded slightly, his expression still composed. "I am now," he replied. The silver-bearded man turned his attention to the bikers who had been harassing Leon. The group that had moments ago seemed so cocky and untouchable now looked like deer caught in headlights. The leader of the original biker tried to muster some bravado, puffing out his chest. "What's all this about?" demanded, though his voice betrayed his nervousness. The Guardian leader took a single step closer, his imposing presence enough to make the man flinch. "This is about respect," he said evenly, his tone carrying the weight of someone who wasn't used to repeating himself. "Something you clearly don't understand." The other Guardians fanned out slightly, forming a protective semicircle around Leon. The original bikers glanced at each other, their confidence draining with each passing second. Doan of the wiry young man with the tattoos muttered, "Man, Wade didn't mean anything by it, just messing around. But the Guardian leader wasn't buying. The folded his arms across his chest and said, "Messing around, harassing a man in a wheelchair isn't messing around, it cowardice." The leader's words hit hard, and for the first time, the bikers had nothing to say. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint sound of the diner door opening as curious onlooker speaked out to see what was happening. The leader of the original bikers swallowed hard, his earlier smirk now a distant memory. He looked at his crew, hoping for some backup, but their eyes darted, avoiding his. The Guardians stood firm, their presence overwhelming, their silence more intimidating than any threats could have been. Leon finally spoke, his voice calm but cutting through the tension like a knife. "You thought I was alone, didn't you?" Paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "That's the thing about people like you, only pick on those you think can't fight back." The silver-bearded Guardian glanced at Leon, a flicker of pride in his expression. Turning back to the biker, she said, "Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to this man properly. You're going to leave, and you're not going to pull this kind of stunt again." "Never. Do I make myself clear?" The leader of the bikers opened his mouth to argue, but the steady, unflinching gaze of the Guardian stopped him cold. He hesitated, then muttered, Yeah. Okay, we're sorry." Leon raised an eyebrow. "That didn't sound like you meant it." The Guardian leader leaned in, his voice dropping just enough to make the other man stiffen. "You'd better mean it." The apology came again, this time louder, clearer. "We're sorry," the leader said, glancing at Leon, then at the ground. Theirs mumbled their own half-hearted apologies, their bravado now completely gone. Leon nodded, once apology accepted. "But remember, you don't get a second chance to fix this kind of miss."